What's up, YouTube? Welcome to the Coffee Pod. My name is Chishi Zed.
Drink the coffee, it'll make you feel better.
Jonathan Majors' attorney provides alleged text messages of victim taking accountability for recent incident. All right, guys, so it looks like the evidence is here. And you might be asking, what evidence? Well, the evidence that Jonathan Majors' attorney said would prove that he's innocent. And they come in the form of these text messages that have been trending all over social media. This is a couple. We're going to check these out together and read if this does in fact prove that he isn't guilty and did not put his hands on his girlfriend. Now, for those of you who don't know, he's being charged with assault after his girlfriend found text messages from another woman on his phone. Let's check out these text messages. Let's read this together. So the first one here starts out with, "Please let me know you're okay when you get this." And so this was sent at around 6 p.m. These are messages from his girlfriend to Jonathan Majors. She goes on to say, "They assured me that you won't be charged," she says. "They said they had to arrest you as protocol when they saw the injuries on me and they knew we had a fight." Now, real quick, that there is true. I know in a lot of states that's the case. If the police show up when there's been like a domestic situation that's happened and there are marks on people, then somebody has to go to jail, right? So keep that in mind, guys, when you're out here dealing with women. And I think this is important to know because this shows you the seriousness of these situations and you want to avoid them. So the text message goes on to say, "I'm so angry that they did, and I'm sorry you're in this position. We'll make sure nothing happens about this." Okay, so there's more here, and this is when it starts to get interesting. She says, "I told them it was my fault for trying to grab your phone." What? She goes on to say, "I only just got out of hospital. Just call me when you're out. I love you." So she's like, "I told him it was my fault for trying to grab your phone." What was your fault? That's the question. Now, I will say this. If you do take somebody else's phone, I've heard this in divorce cases in particular, that person who you took the phone from can accuse you of like stealing their property. I think there's a case where something like this happened a while back. I actually reacted to a video about that, but let's keep reading these texts. Let me not get sidetracked. So this is another text she sent the same day. It's about 3.5 hours later, 9:32 p.m. right there. And it reads, "They just called again to check on me and I reiterated how this was not an attack and they do not have my blessing on any charges being placed. I read the paper they gave me about strangulation and I said point blank, they did not occur and should be removed immediately." And so my whole thing here with the way that that sentence is written, are you telling him that you said they didn't occur or did they not occur? Because here's my question. In order for the police to think that he strangled her, that means she had to actually tell him that, hey, he strangled me. What's missing from this is her saying, "I lied to the police and I'm sorry for lying. I made the whole thing up. Forgive me. There's none of this. It's, I told him that it didn't happen. So you should be good. Mercy."
Drink the coffee, it'll make you feel better.
All right, let's keep reading here. "The judge is definitely going to be told this." She says, "She assured this to me. I know you have the best team and there's nothing to worry about. I just want you to know that I'm doing all I can, my end." I also said, "Tell the judge to know that the origin of the call was to do with me collapsing and passing out and your worry as my partner due to our communication prior." So this is just crazy, bro. This chick's talking about she collapsed and passed out. And then she's saying, "I also told him that I collapsed and passed out because, I was just so," I'm assuming like the anxiety and the fear when she read the text messages. And I'm just surprised the lawyer, Jonathan Majors' attorney, read this and said, "Whoa, this is going to help you," right? That's shocking. Let's keep reading. It says, "Out of care, she promised all will be relayed." Now, let's say this is actually true. Let's say that this was a situation where, obviously they have a very toxic relationship. And this couldn't have been the first time they've had a situation like this happen. And even if she's the type of woman to, turn up and then start freaking out, I can't breathe, and like, I can't believe you're doing this to me, who knows? She might be on some meds or something. It's still not a good look for Jonathan Majors. This whole situation, him being in this type of toxic relationship, still not a good look for him. I hope this is not true. I hope she's telling the truth. I really do. I don't hope that this actually happened. People hope that things like this happened. I don't. I hope for both the case that they're both telling the truth. And because let me tell you what this sounds like. This sounds like they have a toxic relationship. This sounds like it's not the first time they've been in a situation like this, where they both got physical with one another. You're fighting over a phone. You guys know how these relationships go. And if it's just fighting over the phone and him saying, hey, give me back my phone, and he's trying to snatch it, and these things do happen. Let's not sit here on these screens and act like these things don't happen in relationships. Couples do have this situation, but there's only one problem. The spotlight is on Jonathan Majors. And everything changes when the spotlight is on you. You can't move the same. You can't keep the same toxic people around you. You got to be careful with the way you carry yourself as the man. You can't have the same type of relationships. I'm not justifying any of this. Like I said, I hope it didn't happen. But again, if they have this toxic relationship, which a lot of people have these toxic relationships out here, where they go back and forth and you guys are both allowing each other's emotions to get so out of hand that you're getting physical. And in this situation, you as the man should not be mixing yourself up or putting yourself in any situation or doing anything with the woman where you have to physically get involved with her. Unless if like this woman's trying to kill you. Because contrary to what people think, it is not an equal world out here. They would not be pulling sponsorships from Jonathan Majors if this was a man who he assaulted. We all know this. We don't live in an equal world. Don't believe what you're being told. You as a man should keep your hands to yourself, especially when you're dealing with a woman. You walk away from that type of toxic environment and relationship. Keep your hands to yourself. The best thing you can do is either flee the premises, or if a woman's acting up, is record her. That's your only defense when it comes to these type of situations. And again, this has everything to do with her being a woman and him being a man. And as a man, you should have more emotional self-control. Again, you shouldn't be subjecting yourself to this type of toxicity. You should learn to control yourself and walk away. Reaching over and grabbing your phone out of a woman's hand and losing your shit, that's bad too, because you don't know how that may escalate a situation. And I know people don't want to hear this stuff, but this is real practical advice that may save a lot of men from terrible situations. We're going to check out a few comments here and see what the people have to say. First comment here reads, these texts are not helping his case at all. I agree. Definitely didn't help his case. Another commenter here says, I'm going to need the lawyer to provide this text because this ain't it. Another woman here says, he need a new lawyer. All I'm reading is you did it, but I'm telling the judge it's okay, and you didn't do it because you did it because it's my fault. Like, huh? These could have stayed in the briefcase. Yeah, I wouldn't say the text necessarily helped him, but I'm curious what they're going to do going forward. Are they going to take him by his word? If there is more evidence that, of course, proves that he is innocent, then he shouldn't be charged. And if there's more evidence that proves that it actually did happen and did occur, then he should be held responsibly. Now, I saw another comment that I saw underneath the video I did before. Some person who said, this is why you black men should leave these white women alone. And I wanted to touch on that. I don't like that approach to these type of situations because, I've said many times, man, because it stems from this wanting to police who people date. It encourages this mindset of trying to separate people based on who they date, right? People get on people like Jonathan Majors, Michael B. Jordan for dating outside the race. If you're a black man who dates outside of the race, you're not going to win. And I think it's because I mentioned Umar in my last video, people thought, oh, I am that way. I've dated mostly black women my whole life. The woman I'm engaged to right now is a black woman. But I would never go and tell any person, choose who you want to be with based on race. No. You be with who you're attracted to, number one. and the person who values you and accepts you and treats you the best. This idea that, oh, this is why black men should stay away from white women, to me is just crazy, because I don't think, if this story actually did happen, if it's proven that it was true, I don't think any woman deserves to be strangled for looking at a phone. I think it promotes this idea that black women can deal with these type of things better as far as like physical violence. And to me, that's just crazy. That's just insane. But I'm not completely naive. I understand there is a trend of black men who date white women being accused, and it's there. It does happen, but is it enough for men to totally just excommunicate dating a woman because she's white? No, I think that's craziness, because for every time something like that does happen, there's a bunch of relationships where people get along. Now, in conclusion, there is one final statement I want to make. You know, when I see situations like this, texts like this, I'm like, yeah, this looks like a toxic relationship. If the spotlight wasn't on Jonathan Majors, this is probably the type of relationship that would have kept going until something worse happened, right? I think all men and women should avoid these type of toxic relationships. Now, I want to move this over to the topic of what sparked this situation. What sparked the drama between him and his girl? It was a text message from another chick. It was a text message from another woman. A great man once said, high value men cheat. Now, this is not a topic about whether Jonathan Majors is high value or not. I think that whole high value tagline at this point is getting a little bit cheesy, right? That's not the conversation I'm trying to have. But I do want to double down what I've always said when it comes to men of high status. And I'm talking about top percent men who other women get down on their knees and pray Sierra's prayer for. The type of man that all women think they deserve. And like I've said before, if you're the type of man who has something major to lose when it comes to dating, relationships, marriage, etc., then I think that you want to make sure you have the conversation of, what if I step out? I know you don't like this coffee, but here we deal with reality and real life problems. If you're that guy, you want to have these conversations. You want to talk about, hey, listen, I plan to be loyal to you. I plan to not step out of this relationship or marriage, etc. But if it happens, well, how are you going to react? What are you capable of doing? Is that something you're willing to work through, if it can be worked through and not be a continuous problem? Or are you willing to destroy everything I've worked for, you worked for, and kind of burn everything down to the ground? Now, of course, don't get it twisted. I'm not talking about the chronic Derek Jackson back-to-back cheating, or 7 baby mamas with 7 kids, or the guy who, you know, who's bringing diseases back to. Of course, I'm not talking about anything extreme here, because again, I want to talk about the root of these problems. Text messages from another woman. That's what sparked this. If she says, no, there's no slim chance I would ever want to work things out with a man of your caliber, etc., then be prepared to deal with the drama that proceeds after that. Because again, I want to talk about what started this whole situation. It was text messages on a phone from another woman, and she read them. And I'm assuming she had the phone. And instead of him saying, hey, let's talk about this, it was a shock to her. So much of a shock that he was trying to take the text away, the phone away from her. God forbid she goes and posts it online and exposes him as this cheater who promised her complete loyalty. And other women turn their backs and say, what an a-hole. But if you had that conversation with her, maybe she wouldn't have been so surprised that she's losing breath, wants to collapse and faint over. Cops are showing up. All types of craziness. You know, kind of like that Annalie Chapa situation with a chick that wanted to marry him, and she's crying and snot's coming out of her nose. And he says, listen, I told her, like, I'm not looking to settle down. They will be other women. He didn't even say, hey, I might, on the off chance of this a magical happily ever after, they might be a problem, at least maybe once or maybe twice. Who knows? No, he said, hey, I will step out. She was crying with snot coming out of her nose, saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. Trying to paint him as the villain, but he kept it real. And he had the difficult conversation because he understood not only his status, but he also knew himself, right? He also knew himself. And no one really held that situation against him. Again, to some people who hear me say something like this, most times they think to themselves like, oh, you're encouraging an open relationship. What are you talking about? No, I'm saying in those 50 years you might be with that man, there might be a situation that may occur. And if you're a guy who's so confident in yourself that you know, never, I would never, good. That's good. But most guys out here need to be having that difficult conversation, especially if you're a rising star, especially if you're only getting more famous and women are drooling all over you in interviews. But hey, I may not know what I'm talking about, right? Overall, I hope more information comes about this situation. And in the end, hopefully those terrible things didn't happen. If they did, he needs to be held accountable, etc. After the release of these texts, I'm like, we need more information. But what do you guys think? Leave your comments down below. I appreciate you for checking out yet another episode of The Coffee Pot. Till next time, I'm out. Peace.